What's up, guys? It's Lefty here, back with another video, and I would love to do more videos like this, but I've realized it's basically impossible to create content and then also be a good sports bettor, unless you have a team, I guess, but I'm a one-man show, so I'm sure spending the time doing these videos this week will likely cost me somehow down the road, or maybe not, but there's just not enough time to do both. And it baffles me when I see how much time all these pro cappers and sports betting experts spend on Twitter and IG all day talking about how much they win. Where do they find the time to handicap games or research? I don't get it. Hopefully you guys get what I'm trying to say, though. And then if you don't get what I'm trying to say, what I'm saying is they're bullshitters. Pro bettors or people making money consistently betting sports are not on social media promoting how good they are. So don't fall for any of that nonsense. The regulars in the betting network Discord community, we're all hip to this, but I can never miss out on an opportunity to shit on all these fake gurus and frauds and in the sports betting industry right now. There's just so many of them. They're just everywhere. With that rant out of the way, there's a Thursday night football matchup tonight. I did a video specifically on that. You can still check it out. I'll link it in the top right corner if you're watching this, before kickoff on Thursday. But in this video, we're talking NFL Week 7 matchups. Just like that, we're almost at the halfway point of the season, which is good because, now we have a pretty decent sample size of games to work with. We can start separating the pretenders from the contenders. There's still a few teams that have yet to reveal their true identity. They're kind of disguised behind a winning record with a weak strength of schedule. And then there's some teams that, haven't looked impressive. But maybe they've had some tough matchups, injuries that I think, they might be better than their record reflects. But really the big talking points about the season so far, through 6 weeks anyway, is underdogs and unders. Both have been absolutely crushing. When betting over-unders for the season, the under has a winning record of 57 and 37. That's 61%. But be careful with this one because those bookies, they're smart, and they're aware of this trend as well, believe that, and they're adjusting for it. Already there are 9 games this week with totals listed at 45 or lower. Underdogs are doing almost just as good. Underdogs have a record against the spread of 55 and 38. I think that's like 59%. And check this one out. Underdogs of 3.5 or more points have a winning record of 38-19. That's roughly 67%. So looks like we've pretty much solved the season. Just bet underdogs and unders in every game, and then we can retire. If it was only that simple, I have a funny feeling this under and underdog trend won't last much longer. They never do. But let's move right along. I want to break down some of these Week 7 matchups and try to do it quickly, but also provide enough information that can be helpful when you guys are deciding who to bet on. I'm recording this early Thursday morning, or I actually should say late Wednesday night. So keep in mind certain things are very likely to change between now and kickoff. You don't have to do this now, but I do need a favor. If you're still watching and haven't given up and just clicked somewhere else, if you find this video helpful, if you learned anything in this video and could give it a thumbs up or make a comment, I heard that helps grow your audience. Everyone else says it in these videos, so it must work. Also, if you only care about certain games, you can skip to that chapter on the video and just get my breakdown on that certain game. All right. I'm still trying to figure out how to increase the playback speed without having to manually do it on the settings. But I also recommend, adjusting the playback speed to 1.25, get through the video quicker. Now, before I get into the first matchup, I just need to quickly explain how the life cycle of a betting line works. And, you have some books right now that have lines available that you can bet. I probably have, let me see here. Week 8 betting lines. All right. So these are lines that are called look-ahead lines. You can bet them right now. Not every book offers them. But if you hear me say look-ahead line on a game, was such and such, I'm talking about the very first available betting line. Now, on Sunday, on game day, these look-ahead lines get removed or pulled off the screen at all the sports books that offer them. It makes sense, right? They can't have a line up while a team is playing, a major injury while those games are being played, can affect these lines. So they pull them off the board, and then Sunday after the games are finished, we start to see the opening lines for the week. Some books open up lines quicker than others, but the reason I'm explaining this process is because it can be very helpful when you look at a look-ahead line, then watch teams play, and then look at the new opening line get posted. It can sometimes be, a big difference, especially if there was an injury involved. But the difference in the look-ahead line to the opening line can kind of tell you, what they think the value is of that key player if it's an injury or, based on performance. And sometimes, there's like kind of, hidden results or box scores that, teams might have won but lost the game outright. And, it's just a helpful thing to be aware of the look-ahead lines. But let's jump right into Week 7. There are buys, Week 7 buys. Got Bills on a bye week. The Rams, the Vikings, and Eagles are all on buys this week. So Dak, he's full participant in practice on Wednesday. Looks like he's going to play, and just in time because I think defenses have started to figure out Cooper Rush. Plus, Dallas fans are now more comfortable getting Dak back after Cooper Rush just had his worst game as a starter, 3 INTs versus Philly. Little easier transitioning now than it would have been if Cooper was coming off another win. And I was actually impressed with Dallas. Even though they lost and didn't cover last game, they outgained Philly by 1 full yard per play. They lost a turnover battle, I think by -3. They had 10 penalties, but going into the fourth quarter, Dallas was right there, 10 points away, and 1 score away from actually covering the spread. I have a teaser with Dallas, and really the only thing that worries me is Dak. Not just his thumb or how much it impacts his grip strength or, pressure. I don't really like backing quarterbacks coming back off injury in their first game, but the odds makers are, aware of this. They know it's not an ideal spot and think Dallas is a bit undervalued here. And this play is just as much of a fade on the Lions as me backing the Cowboys on this teaser with the Cowboys. Lions are coming off a bye week. Historically, road dogs after a bye week have been profitable around 56%, but that's not nearly enough for me to reconsider or back off them. Detroit has big question marks with running back Swift and then wide receiver DJ Chark. Detroit was stopped 6 times on 4th down versus the Patriots in their last game. I mean, just going for it on 4th down 6 times is crazy, but then to be stopped is even crazier. And something very weird going on with this Lions team. Head coach Dan Campbell has his teams like skipping film sessions to speak with psychiatrists, and it's just not a team I'm looking to put any type of money on. And Jared Goff on the road in games when he's likely to be under pressure, always a tough bet, to back him. There's actually a rule I have that I'm pretty good at following. It's pretty much an auto bet spot, and it's you bet against Jared Goff if you can check off these 3 boxes when he's on the road versus a top 10 defense and the game is played outdoors. I know this game only checks off 2 of those boxes because Dallas being indoors, but it's something to keep in mind in the future. Goff in any games played outdoors, he's 17, 19, and 2 against the spread. Throw in some bad weather, a little bit of wind, maybe rain. He's just 2 and 10 against the spread outdoors. And this is a QB who lifetime against the spread is 48 and 43 and 2 against spread. So he's a winning quarterback, but he can't play in any uncomfortable situations. Unfortunately, this game only fits 2 of those factors because it will be it would have been an auto bet on Dallas, or against Goff if this game was outdoors. So that's why I'll settle for them in a teaser, and I'll talk more about who I'm going to match them with in that teaser later in this video. Next game up, I believe, is the Giants and Jags. Giants coming off another win. They just keep finding ways to win. They got completely dominated in the box score last week versus Baltimore, but they're 5-1. But definitely when betting sports, win-loss records mean very little. And I personally have the New York Giants rated almost a field goal below league average. I have to double check where I have the Giants, but let me see. Giants, yeah, they're -3. That's a field goal below league average. And that's not, based on any opinion or perception I have. It's based on my own formula using several different data points that I think are important in measuring a team's true ability. They didn't do anything in this game that they won against Baltimore that deserves an upgrade in ratings. 3 points below an average team is still where I have the G-Men. I don't even know how a team wins a game with only having 3.8 average yards per play. The market basically sees what I see here as well. Jags respected money came in and wiped out all the -2.5s, and it's now Jags -3 across the board. I feel like the Giants have basically reached their ceiling as far as perception or, market support there. And the Jags have kind of come back down to earth a little bit after those first few weeks where everyone was hyping them up. Trevor Lawrence played really good last week. And Giants, I think they're likely to get some skill guys back this week. Not sure on this one just yet, but so far, sharp money likes Jags, and total really hasn't done anything. Next game up, we have, I believe it's Colts, Titans. Divisional matchup here, and just like the Giants, I'm not up. I mean, just like I'm not upgrading the Giants for their win. I'm not upgrading the Colts for their win last week versus the Jags. One game means very little when we're looking to measure a team's true ability. You need sample size, but maybe this game last week was them figuring it all out, at least offensively. The Indy offense has scored 6 touchdowns all season. 4 of them were last week versus Jacksonville, with a big winning drive from Matty Ryan at the end of the game there. Tennessee, they're coming off a bye week, so they'll be rested and ready to go. This Titans offense, man, 15 red zone road trips, 14 TDs. Pretty impressive efficiency there, but they still have major concerns in the secondary and on the O-line. Now, I have a bet on Indy, and there's a lot of reasons why, but just in simple terms, look at it this way. Colts at home 2 weeks ago, these two teams played. The line closed Indy -4, and yes, the Titans won that game by 7, but what's happened in those 2 weeks to make the Titans now almost a field goal favorite at home, coming off a bye week? The Colts are coming off their best offensive performance of the season now. I'm totally aware Indy has, 3 running backs who are banged up in Taylor, Hines, and now Deion Jackson behind an O-line that has some issues, but this line just doesn't make any sense here. And I have a sneaky suspicion the Colts are going to get some sharp money later this week. So give me the Colts in this one. I took them +3. and I laid a little bit of juice there, like minus 120-ish, somewhere around there. But next game up, Falcons Bengals. Falcons most profitable team in the NFL, but doesn't seem like the market cares or believes in them yet. With a line like this, it definitely isn't showing them respect to a team that's 6-0 against the spread. I have the Falcons. What is it? Slightly below a league average team here. At minus 0.25. Cincy, on the other hand, I have them a field goal and a half better than an average team. I think a lot of teams, look past Atlanta, and the reason the Falcons have been so good against the spread is, they come to play each week, the Falcons, and they play with a lot of heart. You'll see some teams just kind of lay down when the game's out of reach or can't be won, but the Falcons play hard regardless of the score, and that's a direct relation to coaching right there. Nobody's getting hyped to play Atlanta, and they're definitely not getting every team's best effort. But I do like this kid Mariota. He finished the game last week 13 for 14 passing with 2 TDs versus a very good Niners defense. Manages the game well, knows they're going to establish the run, and and plus, they're not punting the ball much at all, the Falcons, and they don't turn the ball over either. I think, what's there? Let me see if I can find their turnover margin. Where are they? Falcons. Yeah, 2. +2 in turnover differential, which I'm big on. If you win the turnover battle, you're going to win the game 83% of the time. Look at the Eagles, +12 in turnover differential. It's no coincidence they're the only undefeated team in the NFL. Next closest being Baltimore and Minnesota, both tied at +4. So Eagles being undefeated makes perfect sense. When you win turnovers, or when you get more turnovers than the other team, you win the game. This over here in Atlanta and Cincy got steamed pretty good. And for anyone who's unaware of what steam is, it's basically bets that got respected money, and bets, it got bet across multiple sports books in a short period of time. This total was 45 on the opener at some books Monday morning, and now we're seeing 47.5 at some books. There were 2 big releases from professional sports betting groups over on this over earlier this week, and I can see why they're expecting points in this one. Since he got gashed on the ground last week versus Baltimore, allowing something like 230 yards rushing to the Saints, and this is going to be a big step down in quality of defensive opponent for Cincy. The Falcons can't generate pressure with just 4 guys up front. And end up doing what most teams do versus Cincy, and that's sit in that 2-deep look or that 2-deep cover 2 shell that's given Joe Burrow and Cincy so many issues. Bengals offensively usually will shred these type of teams that don't have the personnel to play that 2-deep cover 2, and plus add in Falcons' best cornerback, A.J. Terrell. He's questionable. This could be a game where we see Joe go off. Falcons generate the lowest amount of pressure rate on opposing QBs of any team in the league. You give Joe time back there, he's going to do his thing. Falcons defense, they did hold the Niners to 14 points last week, but this is going to be a completely different type of offense the Falcons will see this week compared to last week in the Niners. Next game up, we got here Cleveland, Baltimore, a divisional game. Both teams with a lot of familiarity, but 2 teams that are real tough to bet on. Baltimore coming off a tough loss last week versus the Giants. I mean, Baltimore walked up and down the field all game, 7 yards per play. They had 211 rushing yards, 400 plus total yards of offense, but 10 penalties, and costly turnovers was the ultimately what ended up being the difference there. Baltimore has 3 double-digit blown leads, and you can look at that two ways, I guess. The good being they're able to get double-digit leads in the first place, but then defensively they can't, hold them or make stops. My power ratings on this game, I have Baltimore 4, and then I have the Browns. Oh, no, that is turnover differential. Hold on one second here. My power ratings are, let's see, Baltimore, you got 4. I knew Baltimore was 4. Cleveland, 2. Okay, so that makes Baltimore 6 points better there. Then when we add in home field advantage here for 2, I make Baltimore -8 in this game. But Browns are kind of a tough team to price. Brissett has looked good versus some softer teams, but when you get some of those tougher defenses, he looks like a backup. And these divisional games are always a little weird, but definitely leading Baltimore here. Browns have a lot of injuries on defense, something that's going to need to be monitored later in the week for any type of official play here. But next game up, let's just keep moving right along here. We got Tampa Bay and Carolina. I think Brady's hangover is in the past now. Bucks double-digit favorites, and it makes sense. Despite Tampa Bay even looking like dog shit versus Pittsburgh last week, this line is about how bad Carolina looks. Carolina's offense is all McCaffrey. Carolina finished with 203 total yards, I believe, and McCaffrey had 160 of them, or 158 of them. 69 rushing, 89 receiving. Carolina doesn't have a QB. Darnold, Baker, that rookie they drafted, Matt Carroll, they're all hurt. PJ Walker left the game with a neck injury, so who's their QB option now? I mean, they're just going to play PJ Walker, who's less than 100%. Plus, I saw something this week, or I don't know if I heard it, but Panthers wide receivers get the lowest separation. No matter who is the QB, opposing defenses have the highest rate, what they call perfect coverage rate versus Carolina, meaning Carolina receivers on passing plays have someone within 1 yard of them at the highest rate in the league, 68%. And it's not like they've played some great defenses either. Also, I have a note here. Panthers cornerback J.C. Horn left the game last week and was unable to return. Now, the reason I have this note, I have a special place in my heart for this guy. Years ago, huge bet I had, moneyline bet on South Carolina. They're winning by 2. Opposing team marching down the field, already in field goal territory, late fourth quarter. J.C. Horn strips the ball, recovers it, sealed the game. I'll never forget that guy, J.C. Horn, and that Gamecock game. Yeah, so much uncertainty here with Carolina. Market saying this is a big bounce back spot for Tampa Bay. Brady goes to a wedding instead of a team walkthrough last week. And I love that clip of him just, screaming at the offensive line. Bucks cost a lot of bettors money last week as Tampa Bay took a lot of money late before that Pitt game. And, Brady really hasn't been Brady yet, but I think he bounces back here. And I think Tampa Bay rolls. Double-digit spread with a low total typically means the odds makers expect a lopsided matchup, possible Carolina shutout here. Thinking the Bucks roll. Next one up. Green Bay, Washington, Packers. That -4.5 or any move to 5 or 5.5, it doesn't mean anything. Those are dead numbers, so don't look into any line moves like that. Washington got Heineke now as a starting quarterback, and that's probably an upgrade from Wentz, or at the very least, it's even. Bet Online Sportsbook had this look-ahead line, Green Bay -5.5, and it got bet up to 6.5 for Green Bay. And for some reason, There's some real market love for Washington or some real dislike for Green Bay because 6.5 down to 5 right now, all turned into 4.5 by Tuesday, Wednesday, and Pinnacle is at Green Bay minus 4.5 as of Wednesday. Um, Green Bay 4 yards per play last week, third and fourth down efficiency was terrible. I said last week that Rodgers, um, his thumb is hurt more than being, announced. And he wouldn't show his thumb on the Pat McAfee show after being asked to twice by Pat. You can get Green Bay cheap right now. And it would seem this has to be a classic get-right spot for Green Bay, and it very well could be. But like I always say, games are won and lost in the trenches, O-line versus D-line. And as bad as Washington is, they have a strong front seven, and this Packers O-line is all banged up. Green Bay looks good when they play with pace and hurry it up. I don't get this slow pace they play with sometimes. Green Bay, they stung me really bad once already this year, needing them just to win Week 5 in versus the Giants in London. They couldn't do it. This seems like a game no casual bettor feels confident about backing either team, but Washington did get some market support from respected bettors early in the week at those +6 numbers. But that's obviously different than where we currently see the line now. Jets, Denver up next, right? Is that who's next? Yeah, we got the Jets in Denver. I've never liked a Jets team before now, but this team, young, plays with swagger, confidence. Their offense has looked, pretty bad at times, but they have keys and the ability to win games. They can run the ball, play good defense, and special teams. And they did all three to perfection last week. Jets took sharp money all week, and now looks like we have kind of a sharp and public agreement here on the Jets side. The Jets ran the ball down Green Bay's throat, 180 yards rushing. They had a blocked punt, and I think they blocked a field goal too. I posted special teams ratings last week, and the Jets are number 2 overall ranked special teams. And so there you go, that coming through right there. Those are those little things that matter. And this wasn't some fluke win either, like the other New York team that has a 5-1 record now. The total has now moved from 42 to 38, which is a big move. And it makes sense when you consider a Denver offense with a banged-up Russ facing a Jets defense trending upwards. And we should already know about Denver's defense by now. This will be the best defense the Jets and Wilson have faced this season, but it also makes me think there's a chance Russ might not play. When QBs struggle, oftentimes we'll hear injury claims after the game to cover up bad performances, with Russell Wilson being like a man of faith. And, the guy was a virgin till marriage. I don't think he'd lie, but he's saying now a hamstring injury. So Denver has Russell Wilson with both shoulder and a hammy. But it all starts with the Jets' defensive line. You've heard me probably say in this video a couple times, and the guys in the Discord community have definitely heard me say this millions of times. Games are won down in the muck with the big uglies, and this is a direct relation to their head coach, Robert Saleh, who was the Niners' defensive coordinator for years. They had all those dominating front sevens. I love hearing this guy at post-game pressers. Can't remember exactly what Robert Saleh said, the head coach, but he was talking about their D-line. Just keep giving teams body blows after body blows and drag them into deep water when they know they can't swim. Love stuff like that. Now, each week in the Discord community, when I don't have time to do videos like this, I'll just post game notes rather than do like a full video. And I want to go back and read the notes that I said before the Jets game last week. This Jets team, if I can pull up Discord here, maybe I might not be able to. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to pull up Discord, but it wasn't too important. We'll go to the Houston Vegas game. But this Jets team, I think they have value, but I think the market is already kind of aware of this, and that value is getting thinner each week on the Jets for sure. People are starting to be aware. You can look right here and see Jets have 81% of the bets already right now. So they're becoming kind of like a popular side right now. Yeah, still nothing with Discord there. All right. Oh, no, here we go. Okay. So let me find out where I posted this. I think it was in the NFL. Yeah, right here. Okay. So this is my notes um, before the Jets game last week. I didn't have time to do like any type of write up or game preview or something like that. I just like during the week when I'm um, doing my research, I'll just keep random notes on teams that, when I read something or hear something, and I'll post it in the Discord hoping it might, help somebody. But where are they? Okay. So I look at week 4 as the Jets' true week 1, discounting those Flacco weeks. Now, with 2 full weeks of practice and Wilson as the number 1, I believe this team is the toughest to rate. Packers play soft defensively with extra DBs, which is a good matchup for this Jets team with their options out of the backfield and ability to run. Packers' pace of play is so slow, which isn't good for overs, but based on comments now at home against a Jets pass defense, I think Packers start airing it out and pace changes. I was obviously wrong there. Combined with the Jets' offensive matchup versus a Packers soft defense, we should see some points scored. The game stayed under. I was wrong there. But Jets money starting to come in, and remember, the Jets were a sharp preseason team. A lot of sharp money was bet on the over, regular season wins, even some division bets. All those numbers got steamed. Jets could be very underrated on both sides of the ball. Okay, so that was my thinking back there before last week. Kind of gives you an idea of where I stand with the Jets right now and going forward. And I just figured that was something worth sharing. Houston, Las Vegas, both teams coming off of a bye. Raiders lost that close one to KC and Arrowhead, and the Texans beat the Jags in an ugly game where they were absolutely dominated on in the box score, but managed to win the scoreboard. Teams that lost going into a bye week tend to be all business and less of like a relaxing vacation rather than when the teams win then go into a bye. Raiders laying a TD kind of seems a bit much. Pinnacle Sportsbook, which is, as we know, considered one of the sharper sportsbook, has the Raiders minus 6.5, where everyone else is at 7. Odds makers making that move from 6.5 to 7. It's significant. Some may think it's just a half a point, but when we're around those key numbers from 3 and 7, we see line moves go on or off or through those key numbers. Just know it's for a good reason, and it's likely respected money or sharps forcing that. This over here really got steamed. Houston, Las Vegas. Sharp books opened this around 42, and now you can see 45.5, and even some 46s popping up. And that's significant in the NFL for totals when you see a 3 or 4 point move. College football, that's almost normal, but when you see 3 or 4 points, that's getting some sharp action. Now, I'm going to finish this video with the KC San Fran matchup. And I'll do a separate video for Sunday night and Monday night football. I don't want this video being an hour long. I've read somewhere that long videos on YouTube don't do well because of attention span or lack thereof. So, Yeah, but if you're still watching this video, I appreciate you very much. I'm not good with this video recording stuff, so it takes me longer, and I put time and effort into, recording. I really do appreciate if you're still watching. So, thank you. But yeah, um, KC San Fran. We got KC as road favorites coming off a loss. Um, with a bye week on deck. And San Fran coming home after those 2 weeks out east, I should say. Um, Atlanta they lost to Atlanta on that second game of those back-to-back East Coast road games. Whenever the Niners have back-to-back road games out east, I kind of like what Kyle Shanahan does. He'll have his team stay out east. It makes sense too, instead of traveling back across the country like that. Not sure why more coaches don't do that. San Fran's had a lot of success winning both games when they do that and stay out east. They usually stay at this like crazy resort called the Greenbrier, and the PGA Tour plays a tournament there each year. And a lot of players say the Greenbrier is their favorite tournament because of how sick this Greenbrier resort is. But San Fran does have a tendency to be a little flat when they come back home after these East Coast road trips. It's a big letdown spot for them. I want to say they're 0-4 straight up and against the spread coming home after these 2-week back-to-back East Coast road trips the last 4 years. But San Fran is also 5-0 against the spread and straight up last 5 home games. And they're also 5-0 straight up the last 5 home games versus KC. So some interesting and maybe conflicting trends here in that spot. Wednesday is when teams submit the initial injury report for what they got going on. Niners are really banged up right now. When I say banged up, I'm not talking about Nick Bosa or Trent Williams. Those big names always get more widely known information about, and it's factored into the betting lines. I'm talking like banged up with guys like Jimmy G's blindside tackle, Mike McGlinchey. I mean, there are 7 defensive starters for San Fran on the injury report. Starters, number ones. By Friday, we'll have a better idea of who's going to suit up and play. Of course, Bosa and Trent Williams, if they play, actually, according to Shanahan, there's a decent chance they get him back. That's what he said. So we'll notice a line move. We'll react to that if that ends up happening. But I like to try to dig a little deeper in those depth charts. That's where you can kind of find an edge. And for anyone still listening, like I said, who's serious about sports betting and puts in the time, there are a ton of local team websites that have this info about these players, and kind of like, behind the scenes stuff just takes time and effort to find them. But yeah, I couldn't downgrade KC or upgrade Buffalo after those games last week. That late INT, just brutal for KC fans. And I actually watched this game, and the versatility from Buffalo is what impressed me the most on both sides of the ball. The ability to adapt and scheme against like different opponents. They had 31 total runs for Buffalo, who normally, are so pass heavy. But probably the most interesting thing I noticed, and this is going to get a little bit more into like the X's and O's than I normally do. And this is for the guys who, really understand football or are hoping to learn more. If you're still watching by this point, I figure you'll kind of understand this type of stuff. I usually try to keep it basic and appeal to a wide audience, but the NFL, it's a big time, copycat league. We see it all the time. A team does something that works and other teams try it against that opponent or a similar opponent. There's been a big shift on how teams defend KC the past couple weeks. KC, through 6 weeks, has seen the most man coverage played against them than any other team in the league. So teams are playing almost exclusively man coverage against KC. The Buffalo Bills play a zone defense. They've played zone 85% zone coverage so far this season. This past Sunday, when the Bills played KC, They played 50% man coverage, 50% zone coverage, 50% even split down the middle. Now, last year, KC faced a cover 2 zone defense 80% of the time. So naturally, they spent all off season messing with their playbook and scheming on how to combat this cover 2 zone that teams found success with. KC struggled against that zone. So obviously KC expected to see a lot more this year because, teams basically had a blueprint on solving KC's offense. Same way they do with the Bengals offense, but the fact the Bills switched up and did the opposite of their normal defensive scheme, and played much more man coverage, and it worked, is very interesting. That they went away from their base defense, but they were able to do it with success. And the numbers all reflect it, too. The top 4 Kansas City receivers are below league average in yards of separation. Teams are seeing this and now bringing pressure and going with man coverage against KC, which last year they would eat teams alive who played them man coverage. Now, this game here against the 49ers, who are primarily a zone coverage team like the Bills, do the Niners switch up their normal defensive style and go and play man? They have a lot of injuries on defense, so do they even have the capability to do it? That's the question, really, because it's not like every team has the ability to play both man coverage and zone coverage and still be effective. You need, certain types of players and strengths at certain positions, kind of like how I explained with the Falcons, who they'd love to sit back and play, 2 deep zone against the Bengals, but they can't even get pressure with, their front 7, let alone just having 4 guys up front in the zone, But just imagine KC all off season working on how to beat the cover 2 zone or 2 deep zone, and, changing their playbook and, messing with personnel packages. Now they see all these teams going back and playing man coverage. I like this game. I'll likely be watching this game. Really good matchup all over the field. San Fran really good defending the middle of the field with, linebackers and coverage, and that's where KC likes to attack. The public is hammering KC right now. A lot of books are reluctant to move to, we're seeing KC with 81% of the bets. 81% of the bets, and books are reluctant to move to 2.5 to 3. Remember, that's a significant half-point line move. Pinnacle Sportsbook is at 3 now, so eventually I do think other books will follow and it'll move to 3. My power ratings, with home field factored in, make this game basically a coin flip. So when you start to add in those injuries for San Fran, it gets a little bit tricky. But gonna stop here. We got what do we got left there? We got we got one more left. I can do Seattle, I guess. Seattle and the Chargers. Some books. I'll save the Sunday night game and Monday night game for either a write-up or a video. But Seattle, LA. Some books opened LA 7.5, and now we're seeing some 5s and 5.5s out there. I think there's some injury news on the Chargers side that is yet to be made public. I don't understand this line move at all. I've had the Chargers queued up and ready to click in a bet on them more than a few times this week. I don't understand why this line's moved down below a TD. Herbert versus this defense should absolutely destroy, shred them. This will be the best QB Seattle has seen all season. We'll very likely see how much of a fluke that performance Seattle showed versus Arizona last week when we see the Chargers, what they do here. Saw a lot of over money come in on the look-ahead line, but then Seattle comes out, plays a good defensive game on prime time, and under money came back in, and everyone sees Seattle's best defensive performance by far. Now, all of a sudden, the Legion of Boom of Seattle defense is back. I call bullshit here, but I'm also scared of the market, and that line move I got to respect. But I do have to give Seattle some credit for that game versus Arizona. I'm just still bitter about betting Arizona and losing. But Seattle 1 for 5 in the red zone, and they still won by double digits there. So Chargers bye week on deck and our home favorites. For anyone in the Discord community, we know what that means. We have those numbers listed there. But yeah, that's it for this one. I'll leave the Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football breakdown videos for a later date, maybe tomorrow or something like that. Maybe over the weekend. But hope you guys found some of this stuff helpful and it helps you cash some tickets. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Good luck with all your bets. And until next time, may all the refs' calls and all the loose balls go your way.